TitleMatchNetwork.com.
You went back to WWF, and they gave you the Saba Simba gimmick.
Right.
What are your memories of that gimmick and why it didn't work?
Well, I think it worked.
Do you think it was a racist gimmick? I mean,
No. No. I think it really worked, but I think what ended up happening was it wasn't they planned on it working. If it didn't work, I would have stayed there.
Right.
I don't think they would have planned on it working. Because I remember coming home and my wife saying that Ronnie Piper and Gorilla Monsoon said, that ain't Saba Simba, that's Tony Atlas. And that's my first debut. Now, why are they doing that? I think what they do, they want to make me out of a clown. And it didn't work. The gimmick started becoming popular.
Right.
People started liking it. And that's why they let me go.
They didn't want it to get over.
They didn't want it to get over.
Gotcha.
Like the gobbledygook when they put Hector in the
Right.
freaking thing.
Right.
They didn't want it to get over, but it did. But I was so popular with the people, there was nothing that they could do to hurt Tony Atlas because I did so much in the past that, you know, and I really believe that's why they cut the gimmick, not because it wasn't getting over. I think it's because I look at the old tapes at home, I see the kids dancing in the hallway, you know, the kids at
Right.
the ringside, they were, you know, everybody was getting with it.
Well, how different was the company the second time around? How would you compare it to the first time you were there, WWF?
Wrestling is dead. Bottom line. There's no more wrestling. It's sport entertainment. The day of the wrestlers are gone.
It's true.
There's no such thing as a professional wrestler. No more. Gone. Everything is scripted. What you say, how you walk, how you talk, everything from the beginning of the match to the end is all scripted. You don't have wrestlers no more, you have actors. You're talking to one of the last wrestlers.
From WWF, you ended up in WCW for a little bit. You worked, I guess, a six-man, or it was you and Cactus Jack and Barbarian.
Right.
Too Cold and Ron Simmons. What are your memories of WCW?
You tell me. They bring me in to fight Ron Summers. But before I wrestled Ron Summers, I had to do a job for everybody in the territory with the exception of the referee. Everybody beat me but the referee.
Right.
And then they put me against the world champion.
So you already knew the writing was on the wall. All right. Thoughts on Kevin Nash from around this time period?
I was around him a lot, but I don't know him.
Gotcha.
He had no time for me. He got no. If he walked right there right now, he wouldn't say two words to me. I'm beneath him.
Why do you think that is? Do you just think it's egos?
Some people just feel better than other people. And he feel that he's better than me.
Gotcha. What about Eric Bischoff? What are your memories of Eric Bischoff? Who was in charge when you were there? Was it Kip Fry?
No, when I was in WCW, it was Bill Watts and Dusty Rhodes.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
What are your memories of Bill Watts?
I don't know how true it is, but Bill Watts told me the only reason they didn't give me a big push because Dusty didn't want me there. That's what Bill said.
Right.
You know.
Did you ever confront Dusty on it or
no?
No.
No, I left it alone.
From there, you after WCW, you worked for Mario Savoldi, I believe, for a little bit.
Right.
What are your memories of Tony Rumble and then Mario and all those guys?
I was an ICW champion, and my home address was Kennedy Park. I was the only homeless world champion in the world.
And how did that all come about? How did you become homeless?
I went up to work for Mario after I left Texas. My last wife took everything on. I didn't want to fight it in court. I said, just keep it. I gave up $1.5 million to a woman and just walked away from it all. House, Everything. Just walked away from him. Mario said, you come to Maine and I can make things work for you. He said, I can't pay you what Vince paid you. He said, if I can guarantee you $1,500 a week, which is $75,000 a year. Oh, yeah, that sounds good. So we went up at first, and Tony Romo was my manager. I was a bad guy. And we did an angle with Alvin Puskett where we started selling out everything. But what happened was, every time Mario ran a show, Vince ran a show. So one thing people don't understand about being a wrestler, when I started wrestling, I was 19 years old. I never did nothing a day in my life but wrestle and lift weights. That's all I did my whole life. Wrestle and lift weights, wrestle and lift weights. I didn't have no trade, no talent, no nothing. I only had a high school education. So by the time I got to Mario Savoda, I was in my late 30s, almost 40 years old. So you take a professional wrestler back in my day was like a guy you send to the penitentiary for 20 years. And you take him out of society for 20 years. Then you put him back. Now, some guys saved their money. Some guys got involved in other stuff. Those that had a little bit more education than others. But there was a whole group of guys that had very little bit of education. All they knew was this world of wrestling. When I left wrestling, there was paid phones, no computers. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
When I came back into the real world, there was cell phone, there was computers. The world I left was not the world I came back to. So when I got to Maine, Mario folded. I had $500 to my name. So I went out and looked for work. But remind you, I never did anything but wrestle and lift weights. Wrestle and lift weights. So I fill an application for work. Because this is Maine. The snow is starting to come down. And when they say your trade, I put down wrestler. I never did nothing. I never had a job. So finally what ended up happening was that I got a room at the YMCA because it was $120 a month. And I stayed there for about 2 months. One day I was out job hunting. I come back, all my stuff is sitting in the hallway of the YMCA. So the guy said, Tony, I hate to do this, but you ain't pay your rent for the month. So I took my bag and the ICW title, and I went and started sleeping in the park. And I was a homeless person in Maine for a year and a half. And at the same time, I was the ICW champion. Then this woman saw me one day, sleeping in the park. And she come over to me and said, why are you laying out here in the cold? I said, it's not cold. She said, it's cold. She said, I just saw the news. It's 22 below zero. I said, nah, feel good out here. Leave me the F alone. Then I cursed her out and ran her away. Then she comes back with a butcher knife. Her and her daughter. I get scared there. So I try to get up and run. I can't move. This whole leg here, half of this leg, all the way up to here, all the way across here, was frozen in ice. And the reason that I couldn't feel nothing, my body had went completely numb. So they started chipping the ice away from around me. So then after they did that, they drug me to her house and she put me in a bathtub. Now picture this, I was homeless for a year and a half. Do you know what it means to be homeless for a year and a half?
I couldn't even imagine.
No, I mean smell-wise.
Right.
I mean, for a year and a half, I ain't went nowhere near no water. I ain't had a bath or a shower or brushed my teeth or wiped my butt for a year and a half. I used to crawl in the back of McDonald's when it closed. I used to crawl in the dumpster and get the old burgers they throw away. That's how I stayed alive. I would take clothes and I would put them on. Where people used to leave the clothes at the Salvation Army for them to pick it up,
right.
We go get them clothes, man. We put them on, to keep warm. Even in the summertime, I kept the same clothes on because once you take the clothes off, another homeless person would take it. So whatever you own, you have to keep on you.
Right.
So this lady takes me home, and I ain't had a bath in a year and a half. I got lights and everything in my hair, brother. My skin is peeling off my face, you know. She didn't know who I were, this woman. She put me in a bathtub. I screamed bloody murder. That water, when the circulation came back in my body, was the worst freaking pain I ever met in my life. It hurt so bad, I went into shock. So she called the ambulance. They took me to the hospital. When I came to, she come up and asked the doctor how was I doing. And the doctor said, where you get it from? And she told him. And he said, you know, if that man had laid out there for another hour, he'd been dead. He said, you know, that man was 1 hour from being dead. He said, it's amazing he's still alive. And then Vince called me, and a policeman chased me down. He said, did you know of Vince McMahon? I said, yeah, I used to work for him. He said, well, he's been trying to get a hold of you for a week. I said, really? He said, yeah. I said, well, I don't have no way of calling him. He said, well, I tell you what, Tony, you go to the police station, you can call him from the police station. He said, we know who you are. He said, we've really been hoping that you would get another break in life. So then I went to the police station, and Vince called me to become Saba Simba. So 3 months before I made my appearance as Saba Simba, and this woman, she fed me, she gave me food, she was making $120 a week, she was, and her and her daughter. They were not very rich people. And she's a German woman with a black daughter in Maine. Who would ever figure it? So she would cook for me and did everything. And when I first went to Maine, I was 286 pounds. When she found me, I was 167 pounds. And when I went to do Saba Simba, I was 225. But because my body wasn't used to all this food, I went from 225 to about 280 and 290 real fast. But it was all fat. That's where I got that bloat look that I was when I was Saba Simba. Because when I started eating food, it just boom, 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 boom,
right.
boom. And you know what? There's another thing. Two things that taught me what wrestling is all about. First of all, when Brody got stabbed, nobody cared. When Tony Atlas became homeless, nobody cared. And they were the two main things that really taught me what pro wrestling was all about. Everybody loves you when you're on top. But when you hit the bottom, brother, you would be lucky if one wrestler called you. If I drop dead tonight, there's not one wrestler that I know in this world would find out my wife's number and call my wife to tell her what happened. They wouldn't do it. And that's the sad thing about professional wrestling. I've told many people that when I was homeless, I knew more millionaires than Rockefeller and couldn't bum a quarter to get a cup of coffee. And knew more millionaires than Rockefeller. Wrestling is like what Vachon used to say. It's a dog-eat-dog world. You have to get your bite out of it. Mad Dog Vachon lost both legs. Never got one phone call for any wrestler yet. I saw him just recently at the Hall of Fame. I said, any of them guys you work with ever call you? Nah, never hear from them again. Look how many guys go through the WWE and everything. Once they're gone, they're gone. And that's why guys drop dead like that, because they just can't believe the guys they rolled with and did this with and did that with, we just forget about them so easily. And it all happens so quickly. It's not a gradual thing. It's like, and it's all over. And if you didn't prepare for the future, you're in trouble. Guys you ride up and down the road with, they would get the book somewhere where they're in control of who get hired, who get fired. They say, oh yeah, that's great, man. My friend is running this organization. You never get a phone call from them.
It's crazy business.
Yes. Yeah. Now, I got to say this about Kevin Sullivan. When he was in charge of WCW, he called for me to come down there. But I was working with this AWA at the time with Tito Santana, right. So I didn't really need a job. So I gave it to Rick Fuller, which didn't make Kevin so happy because Kevin had wanted me.
Right.
Because we was old friends. And Rick McGraw was another guy. And most of the guys that really will help people in times of need are guys that never been talked about. But look at all the people that Hogan, all the money Hogan made. Who had he ever helped in the business?
You hear that all the time. It's true.
He never helped nobody. He's down there now taking the job away from the young kids now. Nash the same way. They don't have their run. They don't make their money. He gonna go down there now and destroy all them young kids right now. TNA is on its last leg because of that man. It ain't going nowhere now. Because everything going to be about Hogan now. And ain't nobody, in other words, the Von Erichs went to TNA. Nobody going to get over them guys. Ain't going to happen. Bad back, crutches, anything, no matter.
It's a good analogy.